It is time for the weekly rant where Will and me will talk about crypto news, crypto prices, and anything else I guess we want to talk about. Today we've got a few things. We're talking a little bit about Twitter. We're going to be talking about SEGA getting into gaming, which is obviously a big thing. Blackrock comes on the cards again. A few things to talk about. Price-wise, a bit flat, but let's get into it. Will, how are you?
Hey Simon, doing good and really excited about Sega's foray into Web3. It turns out that they are releasing a remake of a game, Sangokushi Taisen, which was a sort of like a battle cards game. You collect your cards, you trade them, and each card is kind of like a warrior and you use your cards to fight each other. Kind of like Yu-Gi-Oh! Or Magic if you've ever played that before. And it turns out that, well, this game is being remade and we'll see it soon on the blockchain, and it's nice to see that Sega is back.
Yeah, and it's obviously a big name to be bringing into the space, and I think that's really the future of what we're talking about here when it comes to gaming and it comes to NFTs in general. Is that we've started with nobodies who don't have a brand creating something and thinking that this is just going to take off, whereas the cancer kind of I feel is that no, the big brands that already exist, they've already built trust, they've already got great names, they will come into the space, and that's the ones that will really have the network effect because they're bringing their network effect with them. We don't need a blockchain creation of gaming that didn't exist before.
Mm.
We need people who know how to do gaming coming into the space. I think it's about bringing those people in, and Sega, however you want to say it, big name, bringing back a
Mm.
classic game of theirs into the space. It's exciting and it'll onboard more people into crypto.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense because, like you mentioned, the games that have come out in crypto haven't really been made by quote unquote game makers. They've been made by people who know how to make smart contracts, and they tend to make really simple things where like Zedrun, it's really cool. It's horses, they're racing, but then they're not, I suppose, extreme. They're not experts in gaming mechanics and the things that make people want to keep coming back and playing. Sega and Nintendo and all these other people have been around for decades, and they know how all of these things work. So if a game comes out on Web3 and it's by a big player like this, and if the game actually does turn out, bring a lot of people, and more importantly, making a lot of money for Sega, I can kind of see this as really being cool because that implies that other people might start coming into the blockchain. And it even implies that, who knows, maybe a decade down the line, games will have a blockchain aspect to them, in that all games today have all kinds of items. You got cars, you got legendary swords, and all of that kind of thing. And they've got marketplaces in there. It's pretty much standard for games. And not only that, for example, Microsoft has something called PlayFab. And what it does, it lets you as a developer create all of these items using Microsoft's libraries. It lets you create the marketplaces, the leaderboards, all of that. All Microsoft has to do is just connect to the blockchain, and bam, as a developer, you don't really have to think about blockchain. All you're doing is you're using the same interfaces. But Microsoft just looked, seen that there's money in the blockchain, and now they've connected their PlayFab interface to the blockchain. And lo and behold, suddenly all of the items are, let's say, NFTs on Ethereum, and all the trades that are happening could actually be transactions on Ethereum or a layer two. That's kind of cool, Simon.
Absolutely it is. And we know that for these things to be sustainable, they need to be economically sustainable for the future. So the people who make the game need to be able to make money. But the
Mm.
future we're seeing with Web3 gaming is that they have to share some of that revenue with the players themselves. That's kind of where I think it's going. You can play the game and make a tiny bit of money. We're not talking about making a living from playing the games, but it's more about the makers of the game sharing some of the rewards that they're making with people who play the game a lot. Game's got to be fun,
That,
obviously. So, great space. Interesting to see where it goes. I think we're going to see a
mm.
lot more of these kind of things coming along in the next couple of years.
And I think another really cool aspect is that even if it's just a tiny bit of revenue share, as a gamer, I would love to be able to play. But then, let's say I've played a game for 3, 4, 5, 6 months. I hope I'll have made, let's say, $30. That's not a lot to ask, but then that's enough to buy my second game. Or maybe another way of looking at it is that in those couple of months that I played the game, I might have acquired some items that were of value to me. But since I'm not using these items anymore, I'm not playing this game anymore, I could put them on the marketplace, maybe make $100 or whatever. and then use that for my second game, where in fact I'll take that $100 or $100 worth of Ethereum and put them in that second game and trade there. So it could almost be money flowing within games in a massive gaming economy system. And I suppose the players are happier in that they don't have to go out of pocket each time, and that means that they can visit more games. The game manufacturers will be more happy because they have more people there, and there's all sorts of other ways to earn money, advertising. Uh, yeah, the brand itself grows bigger. So I think Sega coming in is a really cool signal, and hopefully it's a sign that more big players will come into this space.
Absolutely. So let's move on to our next topic we're going to talk about, which is Twitter. And Twitter has been granted, I think, a license for US payment services. So what's this about, Will?
Pretty exciting. I think this happened this week, and it has money transmitter licenses in the US. Money transmitter licenses was something that was pretty important actually back in 2016, 2017, when all of these ICOs were coming out and all of these dApps were coming out. And the SEC had a problem with them coming out because users of these dApps, these tiny social networks, were pretty much transmitting money between each other. But then the problem was that, well, not everybody is allowed to do that. You actually need to have a license to allow that to happen so that you can be taxed properly, make sure that you're regulated. Now, Twitter doing this signals a really interesting thing in that why are they going for the money transmitter licenses? We don't know yet. It could just be that they want to send dollars across countries or between users, maybe something like PayPal. But from previous episode we've done, Simon, is that Musk has always been interested in this thing that he called AppX, and he was always interested in building something that would allow people to send money to each other, almost like emails. This brought about PayPal, but PayPal kind of branched off and did its own thing. Musk left; he wasn't happy with how that went, and there's a lot of speculation that Musk got Twitter specific for this reason, and not only that, that it might be real money but it might also be crypto. So that's kind of really cool. We don't know where it's going to go. I'm just really excited to see an app like Twitter start thinking about transmitting money. And again, if that happens, it might be some sort of network effect. And let's hope it's crypto and not just dollars.
Yeah. So Musk has always talked about WeChat, the Chinese social media platform that does allow payments. So when he bought Twitter, it was well known that he wanted to push Twitter in that direction as well. So having payment services on Twitter just seems like the logical step for him. This doesn't mean it's going to be crypto, but knowing Musk and his, I guess, inclination to being positive towards the crypto space, he'll probably look
Mm,
at wanting to include that as well. And if he does that, that's great. It's going to allow more people into the space with far less friction getting into the space. So it's really good news. I think most people knew Twitter was heading this direction. I don't know how long it's going to take them to actually implement this, but watch the space. If it does announce
mm.
it, watch Dogecoin fly because
Oh my God.
that's what Musk and Twitter can tend to do. When he talks about crypto on Twitter, it'll be
Yep.
Dogecoin. So not a good idea to trade it though. But hey, it happens. Uh, Moving on. So I kind of feel it's been a bit of a quieter week in crypto when some of the biggest things that have been circulating on crypto Twitter is talking about Bored Ape Yacht Clubs and
Mhm,
how much money people have lost. I've seen lots and lots of different varieties of these talking about how much value they've lost. So, one of the big ones here that we're talking about is Justin Bieber's Bored Ape, which was bought in January 2022 for 1.3 million, and now it's
mhm.
worth roughly around $60,000.
Whew.
Uh, that's a big loss. I think Justin Bieber can probably, manage that. And also, I would say that I don't think Justin Bieber actually paid for this. I think this was part of the Board 8 Yacht
Mm,
Club's marketing campaign. They gifted it
mm,
to him and made it a big thing of it that Justin Bieber had a Board 8 Yacht Club. So it was more of a marketing thing, but it's definitely a sign of the times we are in the bear market and some realistic pricing of Bored Apes. Really, 1.3 was obviously clearly too much, and clearly at the top of a bubble. Is 60,000 a reasonable price? Well, the market currently seems
mm.
to be saying yes because the Bored Ape Yacht Clubs have maintained that kind of floor price for quite a while. What are your thoughts on this one?
Well, I can't believe that Justin would pay $1.3 million. But I think you've made a good point that it was probably a marketing scheme by the Bored Apes company itself. But even still, I can't believe that a Bored Ape would be worth $59,000. That's kind of crazy. I wish I had minted some. I just don't see the core value of an NFT outside of faith. And it just blows my mind that the Bored Apes are going for $60,000, and it still blows my mind that the market cap is $500 million, and that's just for the Bored Apes, and it's crazy. I don't know what's going on, Simon, but I think a particular thing that I'm really excited about is that, okay, so these NFTs are out. I personally don't understand what gives them value. There's obviously quite a bit of faith in them and branding. While Bieber owns one, I guess I'll get one, is what people think. What I'm particularly excited about is seeing these NFTs move into movies, games, comics. So that when you're holding an NFT, you're holding almost like a proxy to something else. So if my NFT gets featured in a comic, it becomes more of a collector's item in that it's actually got something physical tied to it. If it's in a game, even better. So I'm really hoping that NFTs will kind of evolve towards this space. And we're just talking about the picture NFTs. Obviously, like we want to see land and diamonds and things like that covered by NFTs. So surprised that it's $60,000. All power to everybody who actually got these board apes. But I just want to see bigger applications to NFTs.
Yeah. So when we're talking about bored apes, yeah, it's definitely probably gotten to the cult status, I guess. It's
Mm,
CryptoPunk's kind of level of maturity and stickiness. It'll be around for a while. So I think they've definitely, are going to be around. I don't think they're going to lose much more
mm,
value. In fact, if anything, the floor of the board apes is probably in. Not financial advice. Don't go and buy them.
mm,
But to get to that stage is very hard, and obviously 99.9% of NFTs that are just profile pictures are going to zero.
mm.
And it's a bet. It's
Yeah.
a hedged bet against Ethereum right now because they're priced in Ethereum. So if the board ape's going for 30 ETH at the moment, you're betting that that board ape will be worth more ETH in the future. Not
Mm,
just that the ETH
mm,
value is going to go up, because in dollar figures, if ETH goes up, obviously the board ape goes up. So you're trying
mm,
to earn more Ethereum by holding one of these now, which is a fair trade that you might want to try and do. Again,
mm,
NFTs are hard. NFTs profile pictures is only just the first layer surface of NFTs. So let's
mm.
see where NFTs go in the future. But obviously, just profile pictures is the the lowest levels, I think, of what NFTs can do on blockchain.
Yeah.
Moving on, BlackRock CEO is talking up Bitcoin. Of course, he's talking up Bitcoin because he is trying to get a Bitcoin ETF going. But it was some pretty strong words from a guy who used to say that Bitcoin is just used for money laundering to now saying
Mm,
Bitcoin is digital gold. Bitcoin has the potential to revolutionize finance. Obviously, he's now incentivized to do this, whereas before he wasn't incentivized to do this. But it's big words from a big
mm.
person. What's your take on this one, mate?
I think it's pretty encouraging when I see these big companies start talking up Bitcoin. And the reason I say that is that the the more these bigger guys smell money, the more they buy into the whole story and thesis of Bitcoin. I feel like the safer Bitcoin becomes. So if Fink has gone from calling it something for money launderers and everything to say, well, this is really interesting and it's something that we need to create an ETF for, assuming that ETF gets granted, that makes Bitcoin and by extension other cryptocurrencies that little bit stronger to the point that it would be really hard for any state actor to come and say, oh, no, we are going to ban Bitcoin now. Because let's face it, well, at least how I see things is that governments, yeah, they do run by the will of the people, but at the same time, there's quite a bit of influence from the likes of BlackRock and other big organizations that have money. So if these organizations are making quite a bit of money off Bitcoin, I doubt they would want to ban it. So I'm hoping to see a world where CDBCs exist together with Bitcoin, And so for me, every time somebody like Larry says something good about Bitcoin, I applaud them and I hope more people join in. And I hope this spells a future where Bitcoin is actually considered legal tender everywhere. So yeah, all power to Larry in this case.
I think we're a long way from everywhere calling it legal tender, but we are
Mm,
definitely solidifying it as an investment class, as something to invest in. And the
mm,
big players, all pretty much all on board now for Bitcoin, not necessarily a lot of the other things that are out there, because a lot of the other things are just rubbish, let's face it.
mm,
But
mm,
big words from a big CEO, it's bullish for the space. I think everyone is just now on watch for waiting to see how long it's going to take for the SEC to approve one of these Bitcoin spot ETFs. Could be months, could be years.
mm,
Who knows? I'm guessing it's more closer to
mm,
months than years. I think it's definitely going to
mm.
be a big catalyst potentially for a big push coming into
Oh,
next year. But we got to wait and see. Wait and see when it happens.
yep, yep.
Last topic before we get onto prices, mate. This one headline caught my attention because it said you can buy NFTs on Twitter. And considering we were just previously talking about Twitter going to payment services, things like that, that was like, oh my God, that's huge. Not quite. Not quite. It's got nothing to do with Twitter, but it is a company called NFT Inspect, which is partnering with MoonPay. And so MoonPay is a payment service system. So you can onboard fiat currency to NFT Inspect and buy NFTs from them. The way it correlates with Twitter is that it's using a Twitter search database to look at what profile pictures are being used the most on Twitter, therefore assigning them, I guess, a higher status and allowing you to use that search function on Twitter to then go and buy that type of
Mm,
profile picture. So you could, you'll see on Twitter lots of Bored Ape Yacht Club people, and so you can use this to go directly to buy a Bored Ape Yacht Club. So the front end of it basically would probably connect to something like OpenSea, is my guess, but
mm,
it's a front end that allows fiat on ramp. So it's just another easier way for people to get on board, and that's the main thing that we really want, isn't it? We want people to be able to use blockchain technology without knowing they're using blockchain technology. I think that's what
mm,
this is kind
mm.
of allowing people to do.
It's all about UX, isn't it? I mean, in the back end, yeah, you've got blockchain, and then you've got sometimes you've got to sign in through a website. But it's nice to see services like this coming up where if I can do it while I'm on Twitter, yeah, granted that I have to, I suppose, get an extension, but if it makes it that much easier, that's really cool. And I think what's also cool is that if this thing does end up sort of ballooning and being used by a lot of people, then it could be interesting for Twitter to actually look at it and say, hey, 1% of our users are actually using this. And, this, I guess, is how a lot of innovations come out. People try different things, and some of them, the ones that really succeed, get acquired by the bigger companies. And this could be really interesting. And yeah, it all comes down to UX. Whoever I think conquers the UX problem is probably going to become very rich very quickly as they bring a lot of people into crypto.
Absolutely, yeah. So we'll have to wait and see who can do that the best because everyone's still trying to figure that one out. Let's talk about prices,
Mhm.
mate. So I'm just noticing right now as we're speaking, Bitcoin has actually dipped below 30,000. So
Ooh.
be interested to see that holds in across the coming days. But in general, prices have been pretty stable. I think the big news
Mm,
item since we last recorded is that Ethereum once again printed another green monthly candle. So that's 6 straight months of Ethereum being in the green. Bitcoin hasn't managed that. Bitcoin's definitely had some up and down months, but Ethereum has been more valuable at the end of every month throughout the entire 2023. So that's pretty big. That's pretty bullish, I feel, is that even with Bitcoin going down over a month to month basis, Ethereum
mm.
continues to just creep ever so slightly higher.
Yeah. Yeah, it looks like Ethereum is slowly diverging away from Bitcoin. There was a time when Bitcoin went up, Ethereum went up, Bitcoin went down, Ethereum went down. If if they start to diverge, I mean, I don't even know what to think, especially if the divergence becomes quite significant. But yeah, it's really good for Ethereum. I think are they deflationary yet? Do you know?
They are deflationary because of the burn mechanism that's going on, yes, and the change to proof
Yeah.
of stake. So it is still definitely deflationary.
I need to hold more Ethereum. That's all I'm thinking right now. I wish I had a lot, but it is what it is. I'm just going to keep acquiring Ethereum personally. I'm going to keep acquiring Bitcoin. Um, and August is generally a bullish month if you look at the price of Bitcoin and crypto year on year. So, I mean, we've had a bit of a, well, let's not call it a bearish time for Bitcoin. It's been sideways. So, if August is anything to go by, if previous years are anything to go by, I hopefully we should see another rise in prices, which I'd be looking forward to.
Yeah, I think one of the things that we're seeing now on Twitter, and we'll see it still going into the next market cycle, is that there's that cycle of Bitcoin moves first, then Ethereum moves after that, and then the altcoins, and that's the alt season everyone's talking about. That
Mm,
correlation did used to exist, but I think it's definitely breaking down now. I think Ethereum can and will do its own thing, as it tends to show. Like the whole market, obviously, it's still small enough that everything will go up and down together, and we still will have, we still probably will have another big cycle coming up in the next year or two, and they will all move
mm,
up. There's no doubt about it. The everything will rise as Bitcoin and Ethereum go
mm,
up in price, but the correlation is definitely starting to break down. And I think we will see that
mm,
more and more in the future. And that's just a sign of a market maturing where we're not dependent upon just Bitcoin anymore. Ethereum has created such a big ecosystem that it is able to move markets in many ways. And remember, Bitcoin put its low in December of 2022, whereas Ethereum did that in July 2022. It never put in a lower low. So effectively, Ethereum has been up from its lows for over a year now. So that's a big indicator that maybe Ethereum is going to start leading the market more than Bitcoin.
mm. Yeah, that's insane, and there's the effect. Once enough people start to see that, and the more they believe it, well, Ethereum becomes the dominant, I suppose, crypto to hold. And the market caps are also approaching each other. Ethereum is slowly catching up to Bitcoin, not in terms of price, but market cap. And who knows?
Well, that's the
Yeah,
flippening that everyone talks about, isn't it?
the,
The flippening of when
yeah,
Ethereum market cap goes past the Bitcoin market cap. And it's
yeah.
inevitable simply because
Mm,
Ethereum has so much more use case, therefore it should accrue
mm,
more value. But it's not a bad thing for the space. I think people who sit there and think that Bitcoin should always be the most dominant just are just not comparing apples. They're trying to compare apples and apples, but they're not. There's such different things, and that it's okay if Ethereum's market cap is more valuable for it because it does different things. And so the
mm,
flipping will happen. The Ethereum market cap will go past Bitcoin's market cap. I do think it will be in this cycle. Everyone thought it was going to be
mm,
last cycle, and I was one of the proponents that thought it might have been last cycle as well. It didn't get anywhere near it last cycle, but I think this time it will because there's just so much more adoption. There's so much more use going on that the market cap for Ethereum should just be more because that's just how the markets will work. Something that gets used more and utilized more is seen as more valuable. And
yeah,
that's not to say
yeah.
that Bitcoin's not valuable. It's a different thing, but the flipping will happen.
Mm, mm. Oh yeah, all that gas needs to, I suppose, pay for all of those crazy things that are going on. It doesn't even matter if it's a layer two or layer three. It still comes down to Ethereum gas. It just blows my mind. And yeah, I'm really looking forward to this bull and seeing all the new cool things that are going to come out on different blockchains, but also on Ethereum. I want to see what kind of games come out. I think this will be a really nice bull market. And on top of that, I feel like the creativity, the things to look for are becoming more nuanced. In 2017, all you had to do was launch a token and up it went. Now you really need to get nuanced in the things that you want to create that are going to make a big difference for people to use. So I still think that there's a lot of money to be made for the investors out there. I just think that we need to be a lot more careful, but there's probably still unicorns out there, and that's what really excites me.
There's always going to be unicorns in this space because there's so much innovation and experimentation going on. Doesn't mean the unicorn's going to stick around, mind you. But
Mhm.
definitely, we're going to see more use cases. And we're also going to see that blockchain doesn't solve every single problem. And we're going to see a lot of deaths of projects as well. But that's just part of the cycle. I think we're going through that process now. Definitely projects are dying. And they
100%.
should. and they should.
Yeah. That's evolution. Yeah,
All right, well,
yeah.
I think that brings us to the end of our rant this week. So please give us a like, give us a subscribe, leave comments, leave ratings, do all those things that you need to help us get our word out there. Thanks for joining us, Will.
Amazing, Simon. Till next time.